Joining us now on the phone from Corpus Christi, Executive Director of the Port of Corpus Christi, John LaRue. Also joining us is Patrick DeHaan of GasBuddy.com. John, I'm going to start with you. As I mentioned, you closed the port yesterday. What kind of damage are you expecting from this storm right now? What are your forecasters telling you, John?
Well, our forecasters are saying just what your meteorologist said, that the storm will hit later this evening, probably 115 to 120 mile-an-hour winds. One of the concerns is not just the wind, that level of wind, which is high, but the duration. We could see significant wind like that for 24 hours. And then, of course, nobody really knows, but the rain event could go on for 3 to 4 days. So we're ready. We've trained for a long time for hurricanes. We haven't had one here in Corpus Christi of this size for over 47 years. So there aren't many people in positions of authority that have lived through it. So it will be a difficult few days for all of us.
John, are you getting all the resources that you need from the state and even federal authorities at this point?
Yes, the pre-planning and the work that we've done so far, we work closely, obviously, with our principal point of contact is U.S. Coast Guard. The captain of the port works closely with us on when we close the port. They make that official announcement, and also when we open it, we'll have to work and have had a lot of pre-work with the Corps of Engineers, because before we can reopen the channel, we will have to have a survey done of the channel to make sure there are no obstructions, or in some cases with storms like this, the channel can actually almost move where parts of it fill in. So that will take a couple of days. Our channel's 36 miles long from the Gulf of Mexico to the end, and they'll have to wait until they can get in a boat and go out and survey it. So it will be a few days before we get back up and running.
Patrick, talk about the impact on oil and gas in terms of production in the region, in the Gulf, but also the refining and storage facilities that might be in the path of this storm. The Gulf, of course, produces about 17% of all U.S. crude oil. Nearly half of the country's refining capacity is in that part of the country. So what is the potential impact, and are you already seeing it in some of the local prices?
Well, this is one of the scenarios where oil and gasoline prices are moving in two different directions. Yesterday, oil prices plummeted. Oil rigs are really built for this. The rain is not going to really slow them down, but you may see some platforms being evacuated. So oil production is probably going to be less hurt on this than what you'll see for gasoline and other products. And that's the big issue, is refineries inland now are going to be subject to feet of rain, not just mere inches. And the problem is that they may be shut down for a long period of time. And you're talking about a very sensitive area of the country, of the Gulf Coast, where much of U.S. refineries exist. And this could be a far-reaching impact. And yes, we are already starting to see Texas gas prices go up. Yesterday, wholesale prices moved up 4.5 cents a gallon. Today already, in electronic trading after hours, we're seeing the same increase. So it's about a 10-cent a gallon increase thus far. But keep in mind, the market is digesting this at breakneck pace. This is not something that we've had time to prepare and look at exactly what's being shut down. That's the big difference. You look at Katrina, we saw it coming. Now the market is trying to digest what happened 24 hours ago. This was not really on anyone's radar. So the market has some catching up to do. You'll likely see gasoline values continue to increase, and that's going to mean the national average could drift 10 to 15 cents a gallon higher over the next few weeks, depending on exactly how bad the damage is.
Patrick, that's a really good point in terms of, and that goes to the risk of residents in the region as well, because the forecast for this storm has changed so dramatically just in the last 24 hours or so. Brian Brimberg?
Yeah, Patrick, talk about, if we do see a worst-case scenario here, talk about how the rest of the refining system adapts to that. I mean, what does that look like across the country and over time? What can we expect to see in the next few days and in the next few weeks if this really is as bad as it's looking right now?
Well, I think the biggest question right now is how the hub in Houston could be affected. You have Galveston Bay, Baytown, a lot of major refineries in the Houston area. So I'll be carefully watching what happens to those refineries. Will they shut down? Will they keep operating? Do they have enough crude oil to keep operating with the Houston ship channel seeing one-way traffic and likely being shut down? So there's a lot of questions. What could happen in this situation is you may start to see sympathy from other refinery producing, gasoline producing areas. You could see gasoline from the Midwest make the very rare event of flowing down to the Gulf Coast, just as you see it a lot of the time, Gulf Coast material floating up to Chicago. So we'll have to see exactly how long these refineries will be down, but this is a big deal. Up to a third of U.S. refining capacity could be impacted. I think that's the big thing that we have to do is wait and see how Houston will be affected. That would obviously be catastrophic if a lot of the refineries in that area have to shut down.
John, Gary Kaltbaum has a question for you.
Yeah, John,
Sure.
I'm from Florida and been through plenty of hurricanes, and I'm surprised about something I heard this morning. No mandatory evacuations on a hurricane that potentially is a 3, and who knows what more, and also the fact that it may linger. What do you think about the fact that they're basically sitting back and saying, hang back and don't leave?
Well, a lot of the smaller communities around Corpus Christi, especially those on the barrier islands, have had mandatory evacuations. What's been said as far as the city of Corpus Christi not doing mandatory, they have done voluntary. They've asked people to leave. We had an incident back in, I think it was 2008, with, it may have been Hurricane Rita, where the city did evacuate. There was mandatory evacuation. The storm did not come. As you know, it was like 50 miles off the coast of Corpus Christi and went to Houston, and all the businesses have to close. So especially all of the industry, all of the support industries had to close, and then nothing really happened. And I think what the city and the county officials have done is said, the people don't have to leave if that happens. What happens is then a lot of people stay. The business is closed and the people don't leave. What's happened this time is the businesses have basically closed. Of our 3 refineries and most of our midstream companies announced yesterday, just as was said, that when this storm really picked up, that they were closing. So the industrial side has closed. The traffic heading out of town last night was very heavy. So I think most people, although not all, have decided to leave. And as I said, especially those on the barrier islands, it's mandatory.
John, it was good to hear from you today. Be safe. Stay in touch with us. John LaRue in Corpus Christi and Patrick DeHaan from Gas Buddy. Good to see you as well, Patrick. Thank you.
My pleasure.